is Unit 1, Objective 1, solving absolute value equations. This is a review for the quarterly test you'll be taking. In this, we'll be solving absolute value equations. Number 1, and the answers are shown here, but I'm going to go through and explain how to do it. First off, remember that absolute value is your distance from 0. Okay, so we have absolute value of 2x minus 7, and then we're adding 1 and we equal 9. Remember higher. Okay, first we have to isolate. Okay? We have to isolate the absolute value. Then we rewrite as a compound statement, and finally we evaluate. So if we come over here, the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 1 from both sides. My mouse is not lined up real well. So then I wind up with the absolute value of 2x minus 7 is equal to 8. I've now isolated it. Next, I'm going to rewrite it as a compound statement. So here, I'm going to rewrite it here and here. I've got 2x minus 7 is equal to negative 8, or 2x minus 7 is equal to 8. Remember, this statement right here, the absolute value statement, is saying the stuff inside the absolute value is 8 steps away from 0. So I'm either at negative 8 or at positive 8. Now I'm going to solve each one of these equations independently. So on the left-hand side here, I add 7 to both sides, and I get 2x is equal to negative 1. And then I divide both sides by 2. X is equal to negative 1/2. On the right-hand side, I add 8 to both sides, and I get 2x is equal to 15. I divide both sides by 2, and x is equal to 15/2. The question is asking which is a solution. So it's not necessarily asking for both, it's asking for one of them. Negative 15/2? No, it's positive. Positive 1/2? No, I've got negative 1/2. Ah, negative 1/2. Here's my answer. And down here, negative 3/2, we didn't even get that. Number 2. How many values of x will satisfy the equation? Now remember again, we're talking about the distance from 0. First, I have to isolate. Okay, so I divide both sides by negative 2, and I wind up with absolute value of 3x minus 5 is 0 steps from 0. That means I'm sitting right here. Okay, sitting right on 0. So there's only one possible solution. If I were to the left or to the right of 0, then I would have 2. But I'm sitting right on top of 0. So therefore I have 1. There's only one solution to this absolute value equation, so that I will be 0 steps from 0. Next, we have these 3. And if you prefer, you can always pause the recording and look at what the solution says. Otherwise, I will also walk through this solution. So here we have the absolute value of 3x minus 9 is equal to 24. It's already isolated. By isolated, I mean I have absolute value of stuff on one side and an expression or a number on the right-hand side. So now I'm going to rewrite. So 3x minus 9 is either to the left, 24 steps to the left of 0, or 3x minus 9 is 24 steps to the right of 0. Now I solve each one independently. Add 9, 3x is equal to negative 15. Divide both sides by 3, x is equal to negative 5. Or, on the right-hand side, I add 9, and I get 3x is equal to 33. I divide both sides by 3, x is equal to 11. So x is either negative 5 or 11, which will cause the stuff inside the absolute value to be 24 steps from 0. Now, I can check this by plugging the negative 5 in. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. Negative 15 minus 9 is negative 24. The absolute value of 24 is 24. 24 equals 24, checks. I can check this one. I plug the 11 in for x. 3 times 11 is 33. 33 minus 9 is 24. The absolute value of 24 is 24. It checks. So circling both these answers or selecting both these answers would be the answers that you want. Number 4 is an example where you have to isolate. And remember, you isolate the same way you do any kind of solving. You basically do the reverse of the order of operations. So I have -2 times my absolute value plus 7 equals a value. So my first step will be to subtract 7 from both sides. Subtracting 7 from both sides will give me -2 times the absolute value is equal to -22. You cannot distribute into absolute values. You cannot distribute into absolute values. So I'm going to divide both sides by the -2. Now I have the absolute value of 7 minus 9x is equal to 11. I have now isolated my absolute value. So next up is to rewrite it. I know that this absolute value, this stuff in here, is 11 steps from 0, either to the left, which would be at -11, or to the right, which would be a +11. 7 minus 9x equals -11, or 7 minus 9x equals 11. I am 11 steps from 0. I'm going to solve each one of these. First, I subtract 7 from both sides. -9x is equal to -18. Or over here, I'm going to divide both sides by -9. So x is equal to +2. Remember, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. On the right-hand side, again, I'll subtract 7. 11 minus 7 is 4. -9x equals 4. I will divide both sides by -9. Doing that, I wind up with a fraction. Leave it as a fraction, -4/9. Now, I can check my answer by plugging it in. I plug the 2 in. 9 times 2 is 18. 7 minus 18 is -11. The absolute value of -11 is 11. -2 times 11 is -22. Plus 7 is -15, which checks. Over here, 9 times -4/9, notice that the 9's cancel. That leaves me with minus a -4 or plus 4. 7 plus 4 is 11. The absolute value of 11 is 11. -2 times 11 is -22. Plus 7 is -15. That second answer checks as well. Finally, problem number 5. It is already isolated. So now what I have to do is I am either 2x minus 10 steps from 0 or the opposite of this. To do the opposite, I need to put parentheses around the 2x minus 7 and negate it. Then I'm going to distribute that negative. So I get 6x plus 4, that was inside the absolute value, is equal to -2x plus 10. I continue with solving. I'm going to add 2x to both sides to get 8x plus 4 is equal to 10. Now I subtract the 4 from both sides. 8x is equal to 6. Divide both sides by 8. X is equal to 6/8, which reduces to 3/4. I check this answer. I plug it in here and here into both x's. Over here, I get 9/2. When I multiply this together, remember it's 6 over 1, so it's 18 over 4, which becomes 9/2 plus 4. Got the absolute value. Over here, however, notice that the 2 cancels with the 4, so I get a 2 on the bottom, so I just get 3/2 minus 10. 3/2 minus 10 is going to be a negative number. I'm going to have the absolute value equal to a negative number. That's not possible, so therefore I know that 3/4 is not a possible solution. So I'm going to come over here and I will solve 6x plus 4 is equal to 2x minus 10. Again, I subtract 2x from both sides, so I get 4x plus 4 is equal to -10. I subtract 4 from both sides. 4x is equal to -14. I divide both sides by 4. X is equal to -14/4. which reduces to -7/2. I plug it in here and here for my x's. If I look on the right-hand side, I'm going to get the 2's cancel, and I get -7 minus 10 is -17. I don't even care what's in here because absolute value is going to be positive. A positive will not equal -17. So again, this solution doesn't work. In this case, I have no solution. Remember, when you have a variable inside the absolute value and outside the absolute value, sometimes you will get two solutions, one solution, or like in this case, no solutions. So your answer would simply be no solution. You would not select either one of these because these do not check. Right? If you have questions, please be sure to ask your instructor. That concludes Unit 1, Objective 1, Quarterly Review.